Are you pumped?
I am pumped. And as you can see, I'm something different today.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a lot different today. So, all right. So we're going to say that this is season 2, essentially. We're going to give you guys a recap, and we're going to go back to the best of season 2. Lorianne, do you know why we're calling it season 2? Do you know what's special about season 2?
Well, I do, but I think it'd be better if you just tell people.
All right. So that was when our guest stayed a little longer than expected. That was Lorianne, and she became a part of the team in this program and is now a co-host of the Contagious Leadership Podcast. I know all of you guys are grateful for that, but this is why it's season 2. So we're getting ourselves prepared for season 3, which is going to be happening right in the first of the year as we get started with a whole new set of guests. And we've got amazing folks lined up. But here's what we're going to do. When we get back after this next little 30-second intro that Donnie's going to roll, we're going to get right into the best of from season 2 from Lorianne and other members of the team. And they're going to explain why these guests were important to them and what they talked about mattered. And I'd love to get your guys' feedback. So you know the deal. If you guys are watching live, do us a favor and drop a hashtag live into the chat. If it's a replay, hashtag replay. We're going to be back in 30 seconds.
So our first clip today is from Anita, and she picked one of our episodes with Luke Lehman. So we're going to play that clip right now.
Hey guys, Anita Ortiz here. My favorite Contagious Leadership Podcast clip is from when Luke Lehman came on the show earlier this year, and he talked about the 2+2 debriefing. I think it's an awesome way to understand successes and failures within a task and to move forward from that. All right guys, enjoy the clip.
The first thing that I want you to do in the morning is nothing. I want you to stop and I want you to prioritize the day. And if it takes an hour of your time so that the other 7 hours are going to be wildly productive, that's A-okay with me. The worst thing in the world for you to do is get up, start working. The absolute worst thing for you to do is get up and start checking email. But that's a whole different story about brain science. So let's actually close the loop there on that 2+2 debrief cycle so that we can do that. Something tangible to walk away from. What happens as leaders is that we get an emotional, ego-driven response when we get to failure. Why? I've already told you this. It's because you have a fear of inadequacy or fear of judgment. And as the leader, you don't like the inadequacy. That's fine. So you show up and you're frustrated. Park that right now. That's fine. You have an emotional response. Let's leave it there. If you cannot control your emotional response, the only thing that you need to do is you need to put time between you and the event. Just say, let's talk about it later. Here's what I would say. Rigo, are you ready for a 2+2 debrief? Yeah, you bet. Let's do this thing. Here's why 2+2. I'm only talking about one thing. I already know as the leader the correction that I want to put into place. But I'm not going to overload my teammate by giving them so much garbage that they don't know what I really intended for them. So I'm going to start it out. If you can imagine, it looks like a square, 4 quadrants in the square. Top left quadrant says, what's one thing that you did well? And I wait for the response. They say, well, I think that I saw that, I got that sale to a close. I would say, yes. Now, bottom left quadrant, I'm going to give them one thing that I think that they did well. So in that bottom left quadrant, I say, yes, that was a great job on closing that sale. But what I thought that you did very well, and I'm going to be specific and articulate here, is I thought you did a great job in the qualification of the candidate in the first place, of that prospect in the first place. So yes, you got to the close, but I was more impressed with that quality of decisions that you made in the beginning. Second side, right side of this that's the first 2. Now we're going to do the 2+2. The second side is, what's one thing that you would have done differently, Rigo? And now this is where the magic happens in this micro debrief process, because if you get it right, we can call it complete. Well, actually, I didn't get the sale closed to the correct dollar value. We didn't make any money off of it, whatever. I'm just using your example. And then if that's the thing that I want to give input on, I would respond back, I actually agree with you. That's the thing that I was going to say as well. What I'd like to focus on is making sure that we work as a team together, that we slow down, that we make sure that we get the numbers right before we move to close. And if it's not, then I still give the feedback. But the point of that is I started out 2 + 2. I started out putting you in a positive emotional state.
Yep.
I created psychological safety for you by letting you know that we're in this thing together. And I created buy-in from you because you're starting the conversation and I hear you.
That's such a great clip. Honestly, it's something that I know we need to implement a lot better of in our team.
And I agree, because I think the whole problem is that we don't slow down to do the debrief, whether it was every successful mission or whether there was some sort of a hiccup. Too many times I just see yeah, that was great, let's move on, instead of figuring out why was it great? What made it great? That whole slowing down is so key.
It's a great clip. I'm really glad it was picked.
Yeah, it's a perfect clip. And, and for all of our clients, marketing is constantly changing. Technology is constantly changing. So to constantly come back to let's just hit the pause button and think about this a little more, a little deeper.
I love it. Okay, so the next one we got is from one of our employees, Braden Hart. We're going to get into that one next.
Great.
Hi, I'm Braden Hart with MW Partners, and my favorite clip is the Power Journal from episode 64. And what really resonated with me was when Patrick said, be grateful for the challenges. And I agree. It's a good way to change your mindset and find a lesson within the challenge. Anyways, hope you enjoy it.
When we get into those fearful situations, that amygdala, determines this is scary, this is something that I have to fear. And it literally shuts off blood flow to our prefrontal cortex, where we make rational decisions.
Right.
But this is how we're going to get into this gratitude and meditation, because of what it does to our prefrontal cortex and helps us out later on during those stressful situations.
Yeah. So a couple things. When I talk about it in the journal that people can download off of my site, it's called the Power Journal. And so the first thing that we talk about is praise, right? Those think of at least 3 things that you're grateful for every day. And I just print it off. So on this page, because some people might be thinking, well, how do I practice gratitude every day? So identify 3 things that you're grateful for and appreciate about your life, right? They don't have to be huge things. And I think that's the important thing here. These don't have to be I cured cancer, I'm grateful for that. Or they can be simple things. I'm grateful this morning for the sunrise, which I think was one that I got posted today. That's it. Something simple. It doesn't have to be over the top in terms of what we're grateful for. I think when you start to develop this, I think another thing that you can start doing is find ways to be grateful for challenges that you're experiencing.
I love that. That is so true. Because everything is happening. Well, I have this belief that everything is happening for me and not to me.
Yeah.
So any challenge, any challenge is just, what am I going to learn from this? That's usually, that's my little kind of.
What, to me, when you do that, it's a way to say F you to whatever the challenge you have is. It's no, sorry, you think you hurt me? How about this? I'm grateful for you. And it's kind of well, now what do I do?
Oh, it's such a good part. It's such a good comment, excuse me, because I'm thinking, a lot of times for us as individuals, we don't always, it's not I think when we share this kind of stuff, Patrick, anything, any exercise, let's put this as an example, how we're going live, okay? This is a live program. There are very few occasions that we go and record. We still record live and we broadcast, but we're not live. But we're live right now, and we do this 98% of the time. A lot of things have gone wrong behind the scenes. I cannot express to you the amount of anger and fear and frustration and everything that happens at one time. I can literally feel my skin getting hot because there's nothing I can do, and I'm sitting there and like everything's going wrong and I can't pull it back and I don't know what to do and I want to blame. And in the beginning, that's what I did. I got angry and I would blame and I would just cut it off or do something. And as Donald and I started working more together, I realized I wasn't doing anybody any favors by attacking. And we started looking at these situations and I started saying, that didn't go well and it could have gone worse. Thank you. Yeah, that, you find yourself in a situation that the minute you feel threatened, your natural response, fight, flight. Some of us who are not flighters, more fighters, we immediately go into attack. Bring it. Yeah. But we're doing it in the wrong, it's the wrong energy, going in the wrong direction. It's the right type because we could fight to be better. We could fight to encourage. We can fight to be grateful. We could look at that situation and go, so this is a shit situation. There's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of folks out there that are about to get into worse. The economy is going to shift, and some people are in a bad spot. It doesn't mean that we have to give up, and it doesn't mean that fighting is wrong. It just means, how are we going to fight? How are we going to look and say, okay, what did I gain from this? How am I going to be stronger? How am I going to make sure that this doesn't happen to me again? How am I going to make sure that people's vision of me or impression of me will be what I want it to be, not what someone else is going to speak on, what someone else is going to say about that.
Anytime that you can take, I think, the challenge or the difficulty and turn it on its head, I think you win. Right? So yesterday I went for a run. It's the first run I've done in cold weather, sort of 30 degrees when I went out. 5K run. I think I stopped 4 or 5 times, and I generally won't stop at all, but my lung capacity just wasn't feeling it in terms of the cold weather. So, first off, I'm grateful that I can still get out and run. I'm active in that way. And going forward, I've just sort of got a new baseline in terms of, okay, here's where it was today. I will improve on that. I'm grateful for that I'm going to have an opportunity to go out and do it again.
So don't you also think, Patrick, like this particular situation that you're talking about, it also makes you realize, like, wow, this is like how grateful I am for my health, which sometimes we can take for granted because it's going so well for us.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, without question. Yeah. So for me, as we talk about these and I talk about this power journal, I generally do all 5 of those things almost every day. Not fully, but almost. And the praise part, I do it first thing in the morning. I've got a journal that is behind me that when I start off in the morning, I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And Rico, to your point, I repeat things. In day to day, I repeat things and some of the most basic things. But to me, it reinforces my level of gratitude for those things, is how I would look at it. Not that I'm like, I don't know what else to think about today. It's that this thing is really that important to me. And family is something that's in there pretty regularly for me. Abundance is another thing that I will often say I'm grateful for every single morning. I'm grateful for the abundance of opportunities that continue to present themselves to me. That's like a standard gratitude mantra for me, but okay. I'll add a 4th one if I have to. But that is one that's really important to me.
Here's what I really like about what Patrick said. It's about really just being grateful for the problems that we have. I mean, like, who's ever great with problems? But there's always a gift in that.
Oh, and I'm listening to Patrick talk about this, and I'm listening to me telling him how things could go wrong. And this entire episode has been nothing but problems on a tech side for me.
But it. And then you're right, and that's why you have me, your co-host, who's like, hey,
it's okay. Like, there's worse things. Like, I'm going through some shit right now. Yeah, and you're worried about your camera.
There's some speaking. This is just speaking, and speaking is improv. This is what I tell my clients all the time. Yeah. Things are going to happen. A client spoke last week, and like the tech was horrible, and she just stood there and just let the tech people come in and fix things, and there was just a delay in her start, and I was just like, you handled that like a pro. There was nothing you could do. So to be grateful for the problems, and again, that brings, when we're grateful, it brings blood flow to the prefrontal cortex so we can make good decisions.
No, I think it's great. I mean, you go back to the clip with Luke Lehman, and this is why there's an importance of all these different values that matter. Right? Because yes, I am grateful. And then at the same time, oh, we're going to debrief. Oh, we're debriefing, right? There is a debrief happening. There's been about 100 text messages already out to the team. Debrief is happening, not today. It's happening tomorrow when I have some time to think, assess, because this goes to some of the other things with some of our other, right? From a leadership perspective, I'm frustrated. There's things I didn't like in preparation for it. I'm so happy to put this program out, but there was too many technical areas and communication that didn't seem to flow. And I think that's because we've gotten so good at doing things right. When we made one little shift, everybody just assumed that the communication was happening like normal, and it didn't happen. And that's because this goes back to other speakers talking about processes and ensuring that we have this. So there's so many value points here that matters. And I'm glad that we have these. I'm glad we should almost create these best of lesson plans. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
As we enter into season 3, we're gonna be creating like a new process for our show, looking back on this past season.
That's exactly right. And so what can we learn from our guests?
Right. That's right. Don't forget
I
to
think that's
be in that meeting.
All right. So the next one is going to be, what was that?
I said, don't forget to include me in the meeting.
Oh, yeah. She's like, oh, by the way. All right. So our next video clip is actually from Donald Murillo, and it's a pick that he had in regards to a conversation with another entrepreneur and business building person within my industry, the wind renewable energy industry. And his name is Josh Rangel. So we're going to go to that clip next. And we're going to also hear from Donnie as to why he chose this clip for the best of. So let's go ahead and roll to that, Donnie, and we'll be right back.
And I want to go back to a comment you said, and I want to give Lori an opportunity to jump in here too. But talk to me about, you said, I want to make an impact. I wanted this business to mean more than just something you were building. That's really where I want to dive into, because how did you get to this point? Where did you look at your mission, your mission goal for yourself and for the company? And I've met Aaron and I've met a few others in your organization, and they have the same vision. They're talking the same talk. They're walking that walk. Like it is obvious when meeting your core team that you guys are all looking down the same path. How did you get to this place for yourself that said, I want to create this company with this vision? Talk about where did that vision come from for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And of course, leading, our foundation with, my faith, one thing that I get to do, which is my favorite thing to do, is the Monday morning meetings that we have with management. Get to pray over all of our staff, right? And making sure that that's at the forefront of what we do. But now, as we've been growing, I've implemented that with, all of our sites. So our project coordinator, hey, I want you guys to start out with a word of prayer. And I always like to end our prayers with, Lord, if anyone's going through anything that we may not know of, you would be their peace, their joy that surpasses all of our understanding, right? Because a lot of times when you're in the field, things do go on, behind closed doors, in the personal lives, and you don't know about, what's going on. But unfortunately, that might be a mistake that happens on site where someone cuts their hand or someone gets seriously injured. And we just want to make sure that we continue to make those conscious efforts to say, hey guys, is everyone doing all right? Outside of just work, let's make sure that we're doing okay behind closed doors, because that's where, really hits home, at least for me, going back to, I always say, and I always pray about it. One day, I know the business will be a global entity. I know we'll be, all across the globe, but it starts with that solid foundation, right? Anything built on sand can quickly go away. And I've had it, where guys come up to me and say, man, we heard about you guys, but I guess you guys aren't a fly by night. You're still here. So, congrats. But also knowing that it's leading by example, leading the right way. When I get out to site, even, one of our customers, I'm asking, with one of the head honchos, provide some constructive criticism. What are things that we can do better collectively so that I can also improve what we're doing in the field? And so going back right after that meeting to our text, hey guys, we all came out the same way, and I'm going to treat you with the same amount of respect, And so it really has been, like I said, it's humbling. And it's awesome that, I've been able to hire some of my, friends that I've known, Aaron, since high school, we'll have a couple pictures where, a lot thinner and, staff will joke about it.
Yeah. We got the. I think we all. I don't know. I was just talking to Lori. I don't think Lori's had that problem, but maybe you and I.
There you go.
Lori, go ahead. You have some questions for Josh?
Gosh, I got so many questions, having come from, coach so many executives, in my time. You talk a lot about your culture and also like feedback, getting feedback from your team. I've always been an advocate for like, at the end of a project, what went well, what didn't go well, what would we do differently? Where did you come up with that you would implement that into your company in general?
Yeah, so it goes even, previous to even having my business, but just even going to, certain projects that I was on to help other, friends that they were opening up their own businesses or remodeling homes or speaking with customers, that can be aggressive at times, right? But, killing them with kindness, with a smile and making sure that they're happy, but also knowing when things go well, making sure that you implement them into those projects so that you can see those successes, right? We've done crawfish boils, we're doing barbecues, PB&Js, because, you're working long hours and you want to make sure that everyone's hydrated and fed. But also when mistakes do happen, they will happen, and no one's perfect, but, being the support, how do you mitigate? Let's, improve our processes and procedures. That way, if something happens where, we had an issue, someone didn't put a pin, in a hitch, and then it hit the back of the truck, and then it's an all stop, but when you have 4 cranes running, you don't want those cranes, stopping.
Right.
So, really, providing that positive implementation, but it comes from leadership, right? And it's not, hey, iron fist, and you're cussing everybody out and thinking that things are going to change, because that doesn't always work, right? And it's not the right way, at least in my perspective of how I want to lead,
Right.
but it's having a solid plan of attack and making sure that's very strategic. That way, when you do go out into the field, everyone, once again, our mainstays of safety, quality, and production, are hit at all cylinders.
So let's go ahead and bring in our producer, Mr. Donnie. Why don't you come in and why don't you explain why this was a pick for you with our guest? Donnie doesn't get to talk much, so yay, Donnie. Give yourself a round of applause, Donald. You're going to add the... Here.
Add it in post.
There you go.
Yeah, add it in post.
So, Donnie, help us understand, this was an older episode. I mean, This was a while ago. So this, what episode number was this?
This was episode 46.
Okay, so this was quite a few months ago, almost 6 months ago. So break us down. Why did this particular show matter?
Well, this particular clip actually really stood out to me, and I really enjoyed it because not only did we get an even dynamic of both Rigo, Josh, and Lori pitching into the conversation, but I thought that the whole topic of having to build your team and really build that culture to expand, because you could only get so far on your own, really just, I think it's relevant to a lot of people, especially business owners today. So I thought it was a great clip, and honestly, I loved the dynamic of everybody on the call. So it stood out to me, and I think that as a producer, it's my job to find those clips everybody may have forgotten about.
Okay, so our next clip actually I think is pretty funny. And this happened to be the time that you sparked with Coach Kevin. Now, I knew what you were in for. All right? I knew what you were in for. You didn't. So why don't you fill us in? Why don't you tell us and tell our listeners why this one was your pick? Let's introduce why your pick was this and why it mattered. Go ahead, Lorianne.
Okay, Rigo's right. I had no idea that this was about to happen. But the reason why I picked this, because I was extremely vulnerable, on our live show. And it showed me how much I've grown in the past couple of years. Because if this incident had happened even 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I would have backed down and gave all of these very superficial answers. But instead, I took this spark real serious, and I did exactly what, answered all the questions that Kevin asked me, as if him and I were only speaking to each other in a private conversation. So it was really impactful for me. And I'm really grateful that I did it in public, actually, Rigo. So thank you for surprising me with that one.
Yeah, no, it was good. So, all right, Donnie, well, why don't we go ahead and roll the clip and let everyone else see what we're talking about.
Hey everyone, Kate Knutson here from MW Partners. Now, I've never been a fan of trying new things, but I know without new, we become stagnant and complacent in our lives. Whether you're in your 20s looking for a new career path, or in your 40s in a career you already love, this can apply to you. I learned a lot from Coach Kevin in this clip, and I hope you will too. Enjoy.
All right, here we go. So, Lori, look, I'm going to walk you through this. We're going to kind of do this quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a tool called the Spark. The Spark is really designed to get you what you want and to really analyze like what is going on in your life and what are the lessons that you want to learn from what's going on. And the Spark all starts in something you believe is true. Like the Spark starts with like a thought that I believe most of the time for me is something that is agitating me, right? Today, believe it or not, I mean, this isn't the reason this isn't plugged in because it wasn't plugged in anyway, but actually I moved offices yesterday. So when I woke up this morning, my entire rig of I don't know how many pieces was all over the floor. And I was like, I'm not going to get this done. Like this podcast is going to suck because I'm not going to get this done. Right. Well, what's a great thing to ask myself? Well, is that true? And then it starts a whole series of questions that I'm going to walk you through shortly here. So here's my question to you in business and life, whatever you want to do, right? Whatever you want to do live in front of whoever knows who, right? What is the biggest agitation or frustration you have right now?
Not feeling ready, not feeling good enough.
Okay, I like that. So like, how would you say that if you were talking to your girlfriend or your husband or whoever and be like, I'm what?
I think if I was talking to a girlfriend, I would just say, like, I probably would cover it up with something like a procrastination tactic, but I'm just like, but if I had to like peel back the layer, it would just be like, I don't feel worthy. Okay.
So is it, I don't feel worthy? Is it, I'm not enough? Is it, I can't do this? Like, what is it? Like, just right now, you don't have to think hard about it. It's what comes, it's important. These are your words. So you're going to hear me ask you a lot of check questions.
Not good enough.
I'm not good enough. Perfect. I'm not good enough. All right. So give me 3 reasons that that's true. Give me 3 proofs. Like prove it, right? Like let's say you're in court, right? And there's a judge and he's like, hey, well, what's your evidence? You're not good enough. Give me 3 evidences. Lori is immediately thinking, why did I pick this one?
But I also know that if I picked anything, like you would still like Coach Kevin is now turned into the Judge Kevin. And I don't have, like, I already know that I don't have good evidence. It's just that.
Okay, but you do have some evidence. What's something you didn't do well at in life? Like maybe you tried to be a ballerina, it didn't work out. Like there's definitely some evidence that you're not good enough for everything. What is it?
Yeah, I've said things that in the past, like here's a goal that I wanted and I didn't achieve it. So I've got evidence that I can't achieve goals. Perfect. I've got evidence that I don't do what I say I'm going to do.
Okay, awesome.
Which is a little bit different than the
I'm going to floss every day, right? You ever told your
What'd you say?
I said, you ever told your dentist, I'm going to floss every day?
Yes, yes. And I don't. And then I have like a list of daily activities and that things that I like to check off that I've done so that I stay healthy, so that I keep moving forward in my business. And a lot of times, like I see like, yep, didn't do that yesterday, didn't do that yesterday.
Perfect. These are all evidences that you aren't enough. And we could go on like your mind. This is going to be easy for your mind to prove. But what's really interesting, right? Your mind's going to play a fun game with us right now. Your mind, it's in charge of taking all the data that you're getting in and telling you what it means. So it creates a story, right? Some people will tell you that like something happens and then your mind is lightning fast. It tells a story and then you have feelings after that, right? The biology is totally off in that. This is what really happens. Something happens to you, your subconscious mind has a feeling about it. The feelings come first. Then your mind justifies the feeling, right? Like you get punched, you think, right? Your mind, your body feels, whoa, who's punching me? And your mind is like, I'm getting whoever punches me, right? If you're a fight person, or I need to run away if you're a flight person, or freeze, go catatonic if you're a freeze person. But the feelings come first. our mind is not a scientist that figures out what's true. Our mind is a giant lawyer who justifies everything we already feel, essentially, biologically speaking,
Yeah.
right?
I get that.
So easiest job here is for your mind to prove why you're not enough, because your original story is what? Go ahead, say it again.
I'm just not good enough, not worthy of something.
Perfect. I think thousands of people, first off, you're brave for doing this live, and thousands of people can relate with that. Everybody. Everybody. Okay, so it's easy to prove, but did you notice when I said, can you prove it? What was the first thing you started to say? I don't know if I can. Why? Because your mind's job, yes, it's to create the story of your life, and its main function beyond that is to keep you safe. And if you honestly think about how you're not enough, well, that's dangerous. I don't want to do that. Right?
And in front of people.
Perfect. So one of the things about this process is it's about strengthening the mind. It is a process because we're going to tell the mind, hey, you're going to do some work for me. You, mind, work for me. I'm not you. I don't work for you. I'm not a slave to you. You work for me. So thank you, mind. Like just like we do when we work out, we tell our hands, our arms, our biceps, whatever muscle we're working on, hey, you work for me. Do some work. We're doing the same thing with our mind right now. Cool. So you have proved, right? Proved the original story. Let's ask a very important question, okay? And Gail's ahead of the game on this one. I saw it in her comments. Ready? So go ahead and say your default version again.
That I'm not good. I'm not good enough.
Is that true?
No.
Is it even possible for you to know if that's true?
No.
Perfect. Cool. So that's some good feedback. Asking yourself, is this true, is great feedback, right?
Yes.
My wife is a selfish bitch who hates me, right? Like I have that thought. I'm like, is that true? No. But do I think and feel it right now because she like took the wrong car? Like, so it's funny how negative we can go about some dumb thing, right?
Yes.
So we've asked that. So let's put your mind to work, Lorian. You've already said I am not good enough, right? So let's tell your mind, hey, mind, thanks for that story. Give me the opposite story. So what is the opposite? Now remember, this is the story in the exact same words, only opposite.
So I am good enough.
Perfect. Now, thank you, mind, for a new story. Now watch what happens here. Mind, give me 3 evidences that I am good enough.
And I can suddenly start to come up with a list. I've got over 20 years of experience of being a coach. I've been a professional, well-paid speaker. I'm an award-winning speaker. I've written several books. I've coached people from around the world. I've achieved so many damn goals that we don't have enough time on this show to go through all of them.
You're over 30 and you have a really pretty smile. You are on this podcast willing to talk about I'm not good enough. These are all evidences that you're enough. Like that, really, truly, like that's pretty amazing, right? Awesome. So we could go on, right? So cool. So we have now the default version and the opposite version, which amazing, right? Like it's almost like your mind was created just to justify whatever you feel. Look how easy that was. Now we're going to go to another version. We're going to say, hey, mind, we're not done here. We're not done. One other version is not enough. We're going to do at least 3, right? So here we're going to do the me version. Now this is going to be a little complicated, but I'll walk you through it, no problem. The me version, now the me version's easy. If your original story was my wife's a bitch, right? My wife, I do this training with her all the time. Don't worry, guys. She's going to watch this and she's going to love it, right? Then the me version would be Kevin's a bitch. It's like, ooh. And that's really easy to prove. Right? But so the me version for you, because I'm not good enough, right? Perfect. So for you, you can't say I, like you can't replace I because you're already, that's cool. So you're just going to take the word enough and change it with your name.
I'm going to say that again. I'm going to change
So
the word.
what's your default story?
I'm not good enough.
And what's your opposite story?
I am good enough.
And now you're going to just change the word enough with your name. Just simple. Just put your name in there.
I am Lorianne. That's what you're saying?
Nope. What was the default version?
I'm not good enough.
And so just change the word enough with your word. Now, here's what happens. Your mind doesn't want to play this game because it's getting increasingly uncomfortable. I'm taking you to newer and newer places. So it's pretending like it's confused because everyone else is like, it's so simple. But when you're on the hot seat,
I'm not. All right. All right.
So if I am not.
All right. So it's almost like I'm stepping away from myself and I'm talking about myself.
No. Whoever put that in the chat is wrong. I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough.
So just change your name. This is so everyone who's watching, her mind right now is going crazy because it wants to be right. Because it needs to be right to keep her stable. There's no way to be right in this. There's just do what I say, and that's all there is, right? So it's trying to find a really complicated solution to something simple. So if you're not Lorianne right now, it's like, hey, he just said 3 times, just put your name in the place of the word enough. But if you're her, there's a whole different thing going on. The mind is aware that we're about to see something new about ourselves. And it's like, shit, this could be dangerous because this is new. It could be good, but it could be bad, and we're live.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
And I could totally get this wrong. So, like my part of my brain, you're saying change the word enough
To your name.
my name, so that
That's it.
then it's just I am Lorianne.
What was your original story? Watch how your mind is protecting you right now. What was your default story?
My original story was I'm not good enough. So you want me to say I am not Lorianne?
Perfect. So I'm not Lorianne. Perfect. Okay, good. This seems really uncomfortable. And your mind's like, that could never be right? Even though that's what I said 4 times in a row.
Well, right. And I'm also trying to predict what direction we're
Yeah,
going in.
I get it.
We really did, like, everybody,
So
like,
watch
we
this.
didn't plan this at all.
Yeah, exactly. This user's like, I'm following along, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's great, right? Here's the thing. Normally, I wouldn't suggest you do something that starts with I on your first time doing this, but that's okay. I'm not Lorianne.
I'm not
Give me
Lorianne.
3 evidences of this. And I can already give you 1. That's the best part.
I got to give you 3 pieces of evidence that
Super
I'm
easy.
not Lorianne.
Super easy. I bet the people in the chat could give us some evidence of it. Super easy if you want to look at it. But your mind doesn't because you have a lot invested in being Lorianne. Give me 3 evidences that you're not. Here, let me show you this. All right, ready? I'll give you the first one for free.
Okay.
When I believe I'm not good enough, I'm not being really Lorianne. I'm being some little bitch version of Lorianne. So I'm not Lorianne.
What? Oh my God, I am so confused.
Amazing, right? Wham. Easy.
When I'm not good enough, I'm not being the best version of Lorianne.
Perfect. Because when I don't believe I'm good enough, I'm not being Lorianne.
Okay, so when I'm not good enough, I'm not sharing my talents with the world. When I'm not good enough, there's a lot of people who are missing out on sharing their greatness because I'm part of their
What
journey.
happens? What happens? Watch this. This is all I have done. People are going to think I have magic powers. All I have done is listen to you. What happens when you don't check off all those little boxes you like to check each day?
I'm just judging myself.
Right. And then you're not allowing,
that I'm not good enough.
I'm not allowing myself to be my full self. In 2 ways. 1, I didn't do the stuff I said makes me my full self. And then 2, I'm taking a crap on myself instead of just being myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3rd evidence that you're not Lorianne.
I thought I gave 3. I also, all right, enough. Like more. Okay, when I'm not good enough, when I'm not being Lorianne, and I'm I'm getting confused on my words again. I'm just not enjoying life.
Okay. But prove to me, notice your mind went somewhere else because it's no fun to do what I'm asking you to do. Prove to me 1 other evidence that you're not yourself.
That I'm not myself.
Here's a hint.
Yeah.
When you were 14, were you the same woman you are today?
No.
When you were married, were you the same woman you are today?
No.
You've grown, right?
Yeah.
So are you the same person?
No.
Will you be the same Lorianne tomorrow?
No.
So help me understand how you're not Lorianne.
I can't.
Well, think about it. You're not the same person you always were. So even though you're Lorianne today, that's not Lorianne yesterday. So you can just be creative with this.
So then I could actually just be a different Lorianne in 5 minutes.
Yes, or in 2
In the
seconds.
next minute. Yes. Yes.
And so when you're not good enough, it's like, dang, I must have thought something I'm not good enough. And we're going to come back to the shame thing because whoever talked about shame, I got a really key thing for them. And it hits right into your subject, right? We're not going to be able to get Rigo on the hook. So you guys are just like letting it go. So we're going to do 1 other version. That's awesome. You proved the default version, which is what?
The default version was I'm not good enough.
And then we proved the opposite version, which is?
I am good enough.
And then we proved the me version, which is?
That I am not Lorianne.
Perfect. And now we're going to do something else. We're going to say, hey, what's the chosen version? right? So this is very interesting. This is where this starts to really diverge from the work, because I can see some people in the comments have seen the work from Byron Katie. I love the work by Byron Katie. If you haven't read the book, The Work by Byron Katie, or like there's all these other books she's written, they're all really good. Like, highly recommend watching her on YouTube, all that stuff. Here's where this starts to be different, right? That is really good at getting you to accept where you are and what is, like loving what is. That's the name of her, I think, first book, or at least one of the ones I read, right? The chosen version is about, what do you wish was true? If anything in the world could be true, but in the same format as the first sentence. So we start with, I'm not enough, or I don't, what is it? What was your default?
Not good enough. I'm not good enough.
What do you wish was true? If you could say anything in the world, what would you say?
That I am good enough.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say anything in the world. This is like a blank check. You just want to be good enough?
I'm extraordinary.
Perfect. I'm extraordinary. Now, give me 3 evidences that that's already true. Beyond the fact that you went all in on this, which almost no one ever does. Like, when you said, I'm not good enough, I was like, am I going to let her do this? Because most people will just back out. Like, I've had people turn their camera off.
I'm like not even looking at the comments because I don't want anything to distract me. I feel like it's just the two of us sitting together.
So that first off, like from my perspective, is extraordinary. Right? So give me 3 evidences that you're extraordinary.
I'm tenacious. I actually, when I set my mind to something, I figure out, everything's figure outable. I always figure out some sort of a workaround.
Perfect.
And I'm creative.
What else?
I'm loving.
What else?
Generous.
What else?
I'm funny.
Perfect. Now, let's think about, tell me all 4 of the versions that we just went through, right? Here's the thing. All we did was put your mind to work. We just let your mind do what it already did. Now, we have 4 that we use as a default because it works really well. You could do this 1,000 times. You could do the Kevin version. Kevin's not good enough. Now prove it. You could do whatever. It doesn't matter. Your mind is working through your default belief. So of the 4 beliefs, I want you to say all 4 of them, and I want you to tell me which one matches best who you really want to be in life.
I want to be extraordinary.
Okay, so just tell me all 4 versions, and then tell me which one you picked.
Okay, so the 4 versions was, I'm not good enough. Notice how I use past tense. I'm not good enough. I am good enough. I am not Lorianne, and I am extraordinary.
And which one conforms to the person you really want to aspire to be?
I am extraordinary.
Awesome. Now, what are you learning right now? Now, this is not about you. If you had to teach the whole world what you're learning right now about yourself, what would you say? How would you say that in like a parable or a lesson? Like if this was Aesop's fables and you're like, oh, the moral of this story is.
Okay, careful what you think. But
okay, perfect. Be careful what you think.
Yeah,
Wow.
And for the people who are watching this, I mean, you saw my body language because I felt this with each 4 of these.
So let me tell you a secret. I'm going to show you how useful this is. Be careful what you think. Apply that to your fitness. That lesson. So it's no longer about you're not enough, but just like be careful what you think. Why should you be careful what you think when you're headed into a fitness regimen?
First of all, fitness is part of my life. I mean, if I looked over at those weights and thought, oh, those are too heavy for me, then I'm not going to go for it. I'm not even going to challenge myself. I'm not even going to go for failure or even let's see if I can do 1 rep.
Perfect. Now apply it to your marriage. Be careful what you think. Apply that to your marriage. What can you learn?
Then that would mean that my marriage would probably stay at the level that it's at. If that was, unless I have this goal that I want it to constantly grow and flourish as he and I age.
Perfect. So there's a whole bunch of other things we could do here, but I know we're running short on time. Here's the deal. Look what happened. You went from I'm not enough to, hey, be careful what you think, and have a whole different compartment. Now, I want everyone to understand why this happened. Because you saw, the body language was fun to watch through this, and I do this all the time, so I'm kind of blessed that you have to do this, right? Why did you believe I'm extraordinary? If I had just got on this call and said, Lorianne, you're extraordinary, you'd have been like, thank you, and it's gone, and we're just going.
Sweet.
Right. Why do you think you believed it?
I think part of it, like you took me through the mud, so to speak.
Okay.
I mean, like it was a process. So I went through the mud. I went through that dark part about how I'm not good enough, and then what was the opposite?
Whose story?
And then separating me from it.
Who made up all 4 of the stories? And this is why I was so like, well, what would you say? What would you say? Because if I say it, we've ruined the whole game. So who made it up?
Me.
But a very specific part of you. Which part?
Subconscious.
Your mind, right? And
Yeah,
your subconscious.
my mind.
It starts working together because you get
Yeah.
out of like your natural idea. Watch this. Here's what's crazy, right? If you remember the movie Toy Story, and I know some of you guys are too young, go watch it. It's great. Buzz Lightyear's convinced that he's saving the universe. Woody is trying to get him to get in a car to get back to Andy's house, and Buzz won't go. And finally, Woody says, hey, Buzz, that's a spaceship. It's going to take us to Zurg. So he gets Buzz to do what he wants him to do for Buzz's own reasons. The reason you had this whole reaction like you had is because your mind made up the story, all 4 of them. So once you picked one, it was already yours. Your mind, okay, has to be right. Why? Because it's the way you survive. And so if it's wrong, you'll die. That's how it thinks, right? It's not really true, but that's how it thinks, right? So because all 4 stories were yours, then you had space to choose who you wanted to be. So for the guy, I want to go right into this because we're going to run out of time, and I want to give you guys time to wrap up. For whoever said, hey, how do you deal with shame? Here's the deal, guilt and shame. Guilt is you saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Shame is other people saying, you ought not to do that anymore. The resolution to guilt and shame is the same. No guilt, no shame, new choices. You make new choices. I feel guilty that awesome, make some new choices, don't got to feel guilt anymore. The value of the guilt is to get me to make a new choice. Someone said I shouldn't be something, right? Like my youngest daughter just came out as gay. Love it. Like, but someone said, oh, you ought not to be a lesbian, right? Well, her new choice can be, I reject that. And my new choice is I reject the thought that that's a problem. Awesome. And if I agree though, if someone said you ought not to be fat and I agree with them, okay, new choices. What am I gonna do with my nutrition or my exercise or whatever? No guilt, no shame, new choices. Guys, this tool, the Spark, which is available in our app and other places, and I train on it. There's levels to using this thing, white belt to black belt, right? It will transform your life. It will get you living on purpose and I can't promise Lorianne's exact smile because it's pretty damn good. But
Award-winning, by the way.
Award-winning.
It is an award-winning smile. I love that about Lorianne.
I believe this.
Right? When she told me, I was like, oh, yeah, totally. Okay.
It's true. I won a smiling contest.
So Gail says something, she says your feelings created your thoughts, right? And in very large part, that's true for us. When you really understand, like your subconscious mind is like an elephant and your conscious mind is like this little rider on top of the elephant. He's not controlling the elephant. He's just kind of giving suggestions, and the elephant likes the rider. So sometimes the elephant does what it wants. What we do through this process, right, is we let the feelings explore. We give ourselves several different options, and then we go. And look, it is possible to pick the first thing. It is possible to get through all 4 turns and say, oh, wow, yeah, what I originally thought is what I think. But now I'm doing it with a real holistic view, with having looked at everything I want to be and saying, okay, what I was is what I want to be. That's fine. It's very rare, though. It's very rare that you'll pick what you walked in with because you start to gain perspective. Like, how do you feel right now, Lorianne?
I feel I'm a little tired because I think there was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster here.
It's a workout.
But I feel really good. I feel like I have a choice.
You have a voice and a choice in your own life, which is the secret to all of it. Like that is and what you just did is you worked out your mind and strengthened it. And then tomorrow you do it again. And then tomorrow you do it again. I spark every single day for this reason. So when shit happens to me, I don't just default react. I'm not a slave to reaction. I can choose who I am and who I want to be, and it allows me to live on purpose.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and cue up some closeout music and get off my screen. Oh, sometimes, yeah, you guys got to be behind the scenes. I'll tell you what, there should be a show just on the show.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
We definitely have to do that.
All you have to do is be a guest, and you find out what it is that we're talking about. But that would be a comedy or a drama or a comedic drama. I don't know.
It'll be both.
Donnie says he's going to make some B-roll. We'll see. That's going to have to be pre-approved, Donald, by both Lorianne and myself. Listen, you guys, I am so glad that you are here again with us, and thank you so much for continuing to come back and checking out what we're putting together for you guys. Again, this is a wrap up into season 2. Lorianne, I am so excited about what we're going to be bringing into the first of the year with season 3.
Yeah.
Which we're calling, and all the new episodes that we have planned for that. So as
Yeah,
we get ready to roll out of here, Lorianne, why don't you bring us out with some final thoughts?
Well, I want to say like don't miss the rest of the year because we've got a great lineup. I think that we've got some great topics. I am so grateful to be a part of the show, Rigo. You are definitely you and your team has a special place in my heart. This just makes my week. It just makes my week now. So I just want you to know that. Like I would be, I don't know, I'd be kind of lost without it.
You know what? I'm glad because it's the same with me. Like I do. I look forward to it. I enjoy it very much, and I'm glad that our audience enjoys it too. Listen, if you haven't already started following what we're doing, please do so. We want you to follow us. We want you to see what we're up to. It's easy to do. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the newsletter, you're going to want to do that. You can subscribe by going to my personal profile page, go to my featured items, and it's right there in the front. You can go and subscribe for the weekly newsletter. That is our Contagious Leadership Podcast newsletter. And this is what we do. We wrap up all the shows like this on a weekly basis. We give you a quick 4 to 5 minute read on it, and we give you some video clips. So if you want to go watch that little segment that was mentioned, and we normally just line out 3 of the main points that came out of that program. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the live, you can easily do that in less than 5 minutes and you can get your recap. So with that, Lorianne, we'll go ahead and say goodbye. You guys, thank you so much, Lorianne.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much again for being here. God bless. Take care of yourself. Have a great holiday season, and we will see you guys next week.
Next week.
I promise we're still going to be here. Holidays or not. Talk to you later.